Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Welcome to another episode of Haqiqatjou, where we discuss religion and politics, the two least controversial subjects. As always, I am your host, Daniel Haqiqatjou, and we have an exciting show for you with a lot of information about a big controversy, which is that Elon Musk hates Muslims. He hates Muslims, and he's made this apparent through a non-stop campaign, a non-stop barrage of tweets, statements, even live streams, where he is attacking Muslims. And he's accusing them of being rapists and being involved in these grooming gangs to prey on innocent white children, innocent white Christian Europeans in the UK. So this has been quite shocking. It's part of a pattern with Elon Musk that he wants to present himself as a populist, as being right-wing. He wants to cater to a MAGA crowd, Donald Trump supporters who oftentimes are racists, some of them. Some of them are obviously going to have an anti-Muslim bias. A lot of them are pro-Zionist, pro-Israel. And he is just catering to that crowd. But is he really a populist? Is he really a conservative populist? Obviously not. Obviously not. And this is clear from his history, from his involvement in different governmental programs. It's only recently, maybe in the past year or two, since taking over Twitter, that he has given this idea that he is actually right-wing and he is opposed to the woke mind virus. So what do we make of all this? What do we make of this attack? Now Twitter is increasingly the biggest political social media platform in the world. Yeah, you can have more users maybe on YouTube. You have more users on Facebook and Instagram. But when it comes to discussing politics, when it comes to discussing social issues, and you want to see what world leaders and influencers at the highest levels of government and media and academia have to say, you go to Twitter. And who's in charge of this platform? It's Elon Musk. He has a monopoly. He controls the platform, and he's been controlling it in a way where he's boosting anti-Muslim narratives, anti-Muslim voices and accounts, and he's deboosting Muslim voices. He's deboosting pro-Muslim accounts. So this is a increasingly urgent issue that's affecting the discourse about Muslims and Islam around the world, especially in the West, obviously. So we want to look at some of his tweets. We want to look at the kind of game that he's playing. Why this focus on Muslims, the so-called grooming gangs. And we're going to look at the statistics. We're going to look at some of the arguments that are being made against Muslims. We're going to look at Andrew Tate and Andrew Tate's announcement that he wants to run for Prime Minister of the UK. And he's launched a political party for this purpose. And then we're going to also look at what other Muslim du'at have said and responded, and the bigger issue of immigration. Like, what should Muslims think about immigration as an issue? Because it's becoming increasingly urgent as economic times get harder, as the market becomes increasingly depressed. These kinds of tensions and this kind of animosity that people have towards immigrants and towards Muslims and towards minorities, that's only going to become more and more inflamed. And how can we address that? How can we respond to that? How can we understand that? How can we protect Muslims? Because oftentimes, if you look at history, when there is an economic depression, then violence starts breaking out between racial groups, between racial, ethnic, and religious groups. And Muslims are not going to be spared from this kind of violence, unfortunately. And is it going to be enough to just cry Islamophobia? Cry, oh, you're racists. And is that going to protect Muslims from backlash? Obviously, I don't think that crying Islamophobia or crying racism is going to be effective in that future scenario. So what can we do that is effective? And how do we address this kind of white nationalist argument that, oh, European countries are the home of whites. European countries are the homes of whites, and Muslims just need to leave, deport all the immigrants, deport all the Muslims and the brown people. How do we respond intellectually to that? Obviously, you can claim it's racist, but that doesn't really move the needle when you're dealing with people who do have grievances. They do have these kinds of grievances based on economic hardship, depressed wages, increased cost of living. They have these kinds of problems and grievances. Now, we can question whether it's logical or fair to blame immigrants and Muslims for these problems, but those grievances are still there. So how can we properly explain? How can we properly frame things? How can we do the proper media and optics required to counter the narrative? Because who is behind inflaming these tensions between Christians, white Europeans, and the Muslim immigrants, or immigrants in general? Who wants a kind of race war? Who wants to distract the world with these kinds of issues? Or you can take a guess. Maybe the chat already knows. But we're going to talk about it in this episode, inshallah. And then later in the episode, hopefully we'll have time. I'm going to react to some interesting clips that hopefully you'll enjoy. So, as always, make sure to subscribe to the newsletter. You can find the link in the description below. Subscribing helps us because in the case that YouTube decides to ban this channel, we need a way to contact you to show you where our content is going to be published. And the best way that we can contact you is through email. So make sure to sign up for our newsletter. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. About 40% of you are not subscribed, but you enjoy watching. So why not just go ahead and subscribe to the channel? So let's go over some of this history with Elon Musk. Around Christmas time, Elon Musk started going on a meltdown. He had an absolute meltdown, and it was related to the issue of immigration. Now, obviously, if you've been following Elon Musk, he has supported Donald Trump. He's come out and just constantly making statements against immigration. We need to limit immigration. We need fewer immigrants coming into America and the West in general. Immigration is a real problem. There's higher crime associated with immigration, etc., etc. And this aligns with Donald Trump's platform. It aligns with the MAGA crowd. It aligns with a populist message. And he was cozying up very closely to MAGA and Donald Trump. But Christmas comes around last month, and suddenly there's this rug pull. Suddenly, Elon Musk starts advocating immigration. In fact, he thinks immigration is the best thing ever, but only a very specific type of immigration. Not immigration of Hispanics, not immigration of Black, not immigration of Muslims. Only one type of immigration is Donald Trump in favor of, and that is immigration involving Indians. Indian immigration. He tweeted, "The reason I'm in America along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong is because of H-1B visas." It's a work visa. "Take a big step back and bleep yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend." So he is quite extreme on this. Why? Because he himself is technically an immigrant to the United States. He's built his businesses and made his billions of dollars. He's considered the richest man in the world today. As an immigrant coming to the U.S. So people will point out the hypocrisy. How can you be so anti-immigration when you yourself are an immigrant? But he qualifies. He says that, no. I support immigration, but H-1B visa immigration. H-1B, and it's a work visa. And what people have pointed out is that the main ethnic or demographic group that uses H-1B visas happens to be people from India. And Donald Trump continued to promote and boost tweets from people promoting specifically Indian immigration. And he was also promoting politicians who were promoting this immigration of Indians through H-1B visas. So this was a big disaster for Elon in terms of PR, because the MAGA crowd, all of these Donald Trump supporters, lashed out and said, we're against immigration in its entirety. Even the MAGA crowd that was in favor of legal immigration, even they were disturbed or alarmed, many of them, by what Elon is now saying. Because even those who wanted legal immigration, as opposed to illegal immigration, the ones who wanted legal immigration still wanted limits placed, still wanted limits and caps put in place to limit the number of immigrants coming in legally into the United States. But Elon Musk went to war and said, no, we need more. In fact, we need more Indian immigrants because these are the brains. These are the big minds that will save the United States and will cause all kinds of economic prosperity when we bring the geniuses through H-1B visa program. This was the argument that Elon Musk made. And this was not going well with the MAGA crowd at all. They viewed this as a betrayal by Elon Musk. So let's see what happened with... Here's another person that he... So then what happened is that there's all this backlash against Elon Musk. Elon Musk was losing the PR battle. Even though he controls the platform, he was getting ratioed by MAGA supporters, people who are opposed to illegal or immigration as a whole, people who are anti-Hindu, anti-Indian. He is getting ratioed on his own platform. People are tweeting against him. And he is getting increasingly deranged. We already saw that one tweet where he's saying, literally... expletive yourself in the face. He's starting to drop F-bombs. He's becoming increasingly profane. So he's losing the PR battle on this issue of Indian immigration. So he changes the subject. And he starts retweeting people like Tommy Robinson. He starts retweeting Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is posting about the Pakistani grooming gangs, and Muslim immigrants are the problem. Muslim immigrants are grooming little girls. We have to get rid of Muslim immigration. And we played the clip of Tommy Robinson in a previous episode last year regarding the UK riots, where Tommy Robinson says very clearly, I'm pro-immigration. I just love Indian immigrants. I love Sikh immigrants. They're great. They're wonderful. We need more of that. What I oppose are Muslim immigrants, Pakistani immigrants. Why? Because they are religious. They bring their Islam and they want to wage jihad. They're waging jihad on our soil. So we have to get rid of the Muslim immigrants, deport them all. And then here is Elon Musk asking, why is Tommy Robinson in jail? This is the same media that hid the fact that 250,000 little girls were and still are being systematically raped by migrant gangs in Britain. They are beneath contempt, despicable human beings. So, according to Elon Musk, there's this whole conspiracy of media and government that are protecting these Muslim rapists, these grooming gangs, and the brave soldier known as Tommy Robinson is speaking the truth, and he's in prison now for inciting hatred. We have to stand with Tommy Robinson. So he tweets things like this. And then people are noticing, like some of these MAGA people are noticing, like, wait, what's happening? In just a few days, Elon went from demanding more high-skilled South Asian migrants to warning about South Asian grooming gangs. So what's the problem? And then there's a community note that says, Elon Musk has called for more high-skilled immigration to the U.S. He has criticized Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs in Britain. The two issues are completely distinct. They're completely distinct issues. Indians are fine. No problem with Indians, Hindus. No, bring them over by the boatload. But Pakistanis, these are the dangerous ones. These are the dangerous ones that all they want to do is groom innocent little girls. So this is the narrative that Elon Musk has been pushing. So why? And then this is the thing, that Elon is not only attacking Muslims, he's also attacking the UK government. Saying Keir Starmer, the prime minister, he's part of the problem because he's covering up the grooming gang problem. In reality, like, this whole story about the quote-unquote grooming gangs is from 10 years ago. 10 years ago, there was one case, and we'll look at it, one case, and that was the big scandal. And there was evidence that the officials within that city or that town in the UK were not handling it properly. So it became a much bigger scandal. There were reports about it. And then the Zionist or anti-Muslim influencer said, this is a systematic problem with the UK government covering for the Muslim grooming gangs, these Muslim pedophiles. This is a conspiracy, and they're preying on the innocent white children. We have to stop this immigration. We have to send them back. We have to restrict them. We have to close down these Islamic schools. We have to close down the mosques. This is actually what a lot of the UK riot was about last September, I believe. So Elon Musk, however, wants to pin this on Keir Starmer. He wants to pin it on the Labour Party. He's a dangerous prime minister. How many more thousands of white girls are going to be raped by the Pakistani grooming gangs if we leave Keir Starmer as the prime minister? Elon Musk is just very blatantly anti-Muslim. How many Sharia law courts are there in the UK? Because Ayaan Hirsi Ali, another Zionist agitator who has a whole history of lying about her background, lying about being a victim of Islam, but lying about being a victim of Muslims. She just lied in order to gain citizenship, or first gaining asylum and then citizenship. In Europe, all of that has been exposed about Ayaan Hirsi Ali, yet she still is getting retweeted or being promoted by Elon Musk. How many Sharia law courts are in the UK? So then the community note says there's 85 Sharia councils, not courts, in the UK, but they have no legal status and no binding authority under UK civil law. Sharia councils are voluntary groups of scholars who offer advice to Muslims concerning religious and family matters. So, but still, this is kind of fear-mongering that he's pushing. And then here are the Hindu accounts saying, repeat after me. They aren't Asian grooming gangs, but Pakistani grooming gangs. Why should Asians, like us innocent Hindus, take the fall for one absolute rogue nation? And then you have Elon Musk say, oh, true. True. In the UK, serious crimes, says Elon Musk, as rape require the Crown Prosecution Service's approval for the police to charge suspects. Who was the head of the CPS when rape gangs were allowed to exploit young girls without facing justice? It was Keir Starmer, 2008 to 2013. So this So why? Why is Elon Musk so insistent on removing or creating this scandal in order to remove Keir Starmer? Like, why is that? Could be many reasons. Let's see. Unbelievable. Starmer must go. Why? Because Keir Starmer is making it obligatory for Labour MPs to vote against a national inquiry and will eject them from the parliamentary party if they don't comply. So, what is this? Yeah, so Starmer is opposed to what Elon Musk wants. Starmer has these hate speech laws. Starmer is enforcing hate speech laws, especially when it comes to social media. You want to promote this is incitement, which causes riots, which caused riots. Therefore, we need to stop and imprison anyone who is inciting violence against Muslims or against immigrants or against minorities. We have to clamp down. And this is one of the things that Elon Musk has a problem with. We also see Elon Musk cozying up to other European right-wing parties like AfD in Germany, possible chancellor of Germany. Elon is promoting her. She happens to be a lesbian who is in a relationship with a Sri Lankan immigrant. But, it's okay to have non-Muslim immigrants. That's no problem. It's okay to be a lesbian in a relationship with a Sri Lankan non-Muslim. No problem. Elon doesn't have a problem with that. You could be the next chancellor of Germany. And he's promoting these populist right-wing parties all over the world. Foreign aid to Pakistan in 2023 and 2024 was almost 42 million pounds. It was set to triple to 133 million the following year. An effective use of our money? No, says this Rupert Lowe MP. And Elon Musk says, absolutely. Absolutely. Is Elon going to talk about the aid given to Israel? Is Elon going to talk about any of the military and foreign aid that goes to Israel from the UK or from the United States? That when it's 100 times, 1,000 times more than anything going to Pakistan? No, of course not. So just nonstop attack on Muslims, Sharia courts, quote unquote, on Pakistan, on any kind of left-wing party that might have any kind of so-called sympathy towards migrants or Muslims. Elon is on the attack. Ever heard? And then here's this account, Inevitable West, that just started 2 months ago. This account was opened 2 months ago and already has 165,000 followers because every nonsense thing he tweets against Muslims gets boosted through the moon. He's getting tens of thousands of likes when he's just a brand new account. How is this happening? Well, maybe it's because Elon is literally retweeting him. Ever heard of Christian phobia, Sikh phobia, Hindu phobia? Me neither. Is interesting, isn't it? Elon says, oh, good point. Why is that? An obvious attack against Islamophobia. Islamophobia is a fake thing. There can't be any hate of Muslims. Why didn't he include anti-Semitism, I wonder? Why isn't anti-Semitism on this list? Isn't that hatred of a religious group? Is that not another example? Why is that not on the list? Inevitable West. Interesting oversight. So why is Elon attacking Keir Starmer and the UK Labour government? Could it be the fact that last year, in September, the UK suspended around 30 arms export licenses to Israel for use in Gaza over international humanitarian law concerns? Could this be why? The government has taken the decision that the UK will suspend arms export licenses to Israel for use in military operations in Gaza following a review of Israel's compliance with international humanitarian law. Interesting. I mean, this is not like a complete ban on weapons and technology going from the UK and aid going from the UK to Israel. No, this is just a limitation on some of these licenses, not even all licenses. But that is unacceptable, and Israel is going to make you suffer. Israel is going to punish you and your government. And then who comes along to amplify these claims, or to amplify a media campaign to take you out, to take your government from power? Elon Musk. Netanyahu's good little puppy. Netanyahu's good little puppy comes in and uses his entire platform to agitate against Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. We need to take them out of power. Why? Not because of Israel. Like, let's not mention that. It's because of the Pakistanis. It's because of the grooming gangs that you did nothing about. It's because of the woke mind virus. That's why. That's why we have to get rid of Keir Starmer and the UK Labour Party. We need a party for the people, for the innocent white natives of the UK. That's what we need. So this is the PSYOP. And then we had a great article on MuslimSkeptic that you can read on this whole scandal: Douglas Murray, Neoconservatism, and the Culture of Child Sexual Abuse. And this article is just about pointing out the hypocrisies of Elon Musk and the people that he's promoting. Because Elon Musk is promoting Tommy Robinson, as we saw, this Zionist criminal, cocaine addict. He's also promoting people like Douglas Murray, this, clear bigot, anti-Muslim hater, and homosexual who has dedicated his whole life to fighting for Israel, even though he's not technically Jewish. But this is who Elon Musk is promoting. His book, worth reading, The Strange Death of Europe, which is it's like an anti-Muslim screed, anti-immigrant screed, promoting that. But let's look at, Douglas Murray and his neoconservative credentials, his neoconservative affiliations. One of Douglas Murray's mentors or intellectual inspiration, which is Leo Strauss, one of the main thinkers of neoconservatism, who is an open promoter of pederasty. Open promoter of pederasty. This is Douglas Murray's hero. And you can see these quotes where Leo Strauss is promoting relationships between men and boys. I guess maybe Douglas Murray is also a fan of pederasty. Maybe if he loves Douglas or he loves Leo Strauss so much, maybe someone should ask Douglas Murray if he's a fan of pederasty. Here is more details, like Douglas Murray's connection to Alan Dershowitz and Epstein. These Zionists involved, infamous Jeffrey Epstein, tied to Israeli Mossad, blackmailing politicians in these kinds of sex scandals involving minors, documenting all this blackmail material. Alan Dershowitz also involved, according to official court documents and official testimony under oath. He was involved with minors. He was involved not only in relationships or acts involving minors, he was also witnessing these things. Alan Dershowitz, yet he still enjoys a prominent career in media, still being brought on to programs like Piers Morgan, when he has this record, when he has these kinds of associations. Douglas Murray, same thing. And yet they claim to be so concerned about the safety of children, so concerned about, these grooming gangs, these Pakistani Muslims. Meanwhile, you're carrying water for Jeffrey Epstein, and you're whitewashing these crimes against minors and children. Why? Is it because Zionists are involved? When Zionists are involved, then you look the other way, and it's literally people that you are working with and you're promoting who are doing these kinds of things. And then, how can you be a Zionist and try to convince people that you care about the safety of children? You're supporting the Israeli regime, the Zionist entity that has been mass slaughtering children for its entire history, but even more recently, has been slaughtering tens of thousands of children, literally starving them to death, literally allowing infants to starve to death or freeze to death because you're cutting food supply lines, you're cutting water supply lines, you're cutting medical supplies, you're cutting electricity in the middle of winter where children are being frozen to death. But you're a Zionist who cares about children. Okay, yeah. Or Elon Musk, you really care about children. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Just not Palestinian children, just not brown children, right? And then what about Israel's own weaponized, institutionalized rape, which we've covered in depth, where these Israeli soldiers, IDF soldiers, were gang raping Palestinian prisoners. And then when they were caught on video camera doing it, and the Israeli government had no choice but to give disciplinary action against those soldiers, there was a mass riot in Israel. No, you cannot punish these soldiers. They're heroes. These gang rapists are our heroes. Right? That's what happened in Israel, and we covered this in depth. That's the kind of nation Israel is. That's the kind of people that are in Israel. So what does that say about those who are defending Israel, those who are fighting for Israel and Zionism as it inflicts this genocide and mass rape on Palestinians? What does it say about them? Do you think they really care about children? Do they care about abuse of children? So this is a farce. I recommend you go read this article by Abdullah Nuruddin from Coolness of Hind. And he writes for MuslimSkeptic. Go check out this very nice piece. And then the hypocrisy. It's kind of... this is another one of these Zionist accounts that Elon constantly is interacting with. This person is apparently in Dubai. He lives in Malaysia. Ian Miles Chong. He lives in Malaysia, but he's constantly attacking Muslims. He's constantly criticizing Muslims. He's constantly supporting Zionism. I don't know why the Malaysian government hasn't taken action against this Zionist genocide promoter. But he says, oh, he's in Dubai. It's 2:55 a.m. I'm just walking outside in the heart of the city. It's perfectly safe. This is Dubai. And then Elon says, American cities need to be this way. Oh, they need to be like a Muslim country? Haven't you gone on this tirade for the past months against Muslim immigrants? But American cities need to be more like Muslim cities. Oh, okay. Okay. Or maybe he just meant like Dubai. Maybe one particular Muslim city that happens to have normalized relations with Israel. Maybe that's actually what he means. So this is why I mentioned earlier, Elon thinking to himself, how could I possibly present myself as a right-wing populist when I'm really a neoliberal globalist? I know, nonstop hate against Muslims. So this is his game, like his agenda. If we want to step back and understand what Elon cares about money. He cares about money. He cares about power. He cares about cheap labor. So he wants immigration, but it has to be an immigration that benefits him personally. He views the United States more of an economic zone and a economic opportunity. That's his entire perspective on America. So he has no problem with immigration if it's going to reduce his costs and increase his profit for him and his shareholders so that his companies, like Tesla, the most valuable car company in the world, for example, or SpaceX, the up-and-coming rising engineering power that is commercializing spaceflight. He cares about the success of his companies and his bottom line. So if that means more immigration, great. But he also recognizes that a lot of the more left-wing policies have hurt the bottom line, have hurt businesses. And we see this in many of the top companies because of a DEI agenda, because of a kind of forced diversity agenda. There has been decrease in share value, decrease in profits. Many companies are on the verge of bankruptcy. Many companies are suffering that used to be at the top in terms of their share value, in terms of their profits. Major multinational corporations, media corporations, things like Disney, for example, Disney, Time Warner. You have companies like Boeing, plane companies, aerospace companies. These companies are suffering and their share value has plummeted. Their stock prices have plummeted. You see economic problems even in the top of the Fortune 500. So this, I think, one theory could be that billionaires like Elon Musk are concerned that they're going to lose economically to China. They're going to lose economically to China and its network, the BRICS network of nations. How can we compete? And it seems like this experiment since 2016 of promoting diversity above all else, this is actually bringing an economic strain because companies can't compete with the less woke but more economically profitable emergent developing world. This seems to be a big concern for Elon Musk and a billionaire tech class that has now shifted support from the Democrats to Donald Trump. And people wonder why. Why is Elon Musk and a lot of these other tech billionaires who were so much in favor of diversity, equity, inclusion, they were so much in favor of these kinds of policies within the corporate world. They were so in favor of censorship on the basis of shutting down any kind of right-wing or populist voice. Any type of MAGA type of discourse was shut down. Donald Trump was literally banned off of Twitter. He was banned off of Facebook. Now you have people like Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Facebook, the head of Meta, coming out and saying, that was a mistake. I apologize to Donald Trump. I support MAGA. I support MAGA. How does this happen? Why is there a sudden 180-degree turn? This is the question. And I think part of it has to do with economics. Part of it has to do with their bottom line. We need to advance technologically, and we can't do that. We're falling behind the power curve in competition with China and BRICS. And this is bad news. We're no longer going to be a superpower. We're not going to have the economic control of the world and the world's resources that we've enjoyed if America continues down this path. So it's self-interest. Another possible motive can be Israel. Another possible motive is October 7th and the backlash against Israel globally and in the West, where protests erupted against Israeli genocide. And this was a shock to Zionists who had been promoting, people like billionaire Bill Ackman, who had been promoting DEI, had been promoting an open borders policy, bring in as many Muslims as possible, bring in as many immigrants as possible. They were in support of these policies, especially since 2016. Now you're suddenly a right-wing populist who wants to close the borders, and you have a problem specifically with Muslim immigrants. Is that possibly because their demographic has shifted in favor of anti-Israel sentiment? And this is threatening the Western support of Israel, and that will affect future aid and future military support of Israel, future wars in the Middle East, a future war against Iran. We can't just allow any kind of immigrant. We can't just allow any type of immigrant to come into the United States or the UK or Germany. We have to make sure that these are pro-Zionist immigrants. So that means no more Muslim immigrants. Close that door. And also limit the immigrants from Africa, limit the immigrants from South America, because they also tend to be pro-Palestinian. They also tend to be anti-Israel. So you need to stop that kind of immigration as well. But, let's not go out of hand. The Indians, please, the Hindus, these Hindutva influenced fascists, yes, please bring them in, and we're going to have them fill all of these tech companies, fill all of these social media companies. No problem. No problem with that, because it's, yes, sir for Israel. Yes, sir for the Zionists. That's what Ranjit is saying. So bring in, these immigrants, no problem. But when it comes to Hispanic, when it comes to Black African, when it comes to Haitian, when it comes to Muslim Pakistani, no. These are not the type. These are groomers. These are groomers. So it seems to be a combination of economic concerns, a desire for turning the ship around when it comes to the West, and the increasing likelihood of economic downfall. No longer will the West be the superpower on the one hand, but also a concern for the demographic shift and increasingly anti-Israel shift, where the main supporters of Zionism now are in their 60s and 70s and 80s. That's the boomer generation, and they're at the end of life. When those boomers are gone, who's really going to be supporting Israel in the Western populations? That's the nightmare scenario for Israel. You have a large percentage of the youth in the West who are not only anti-Zionism, they also seem to have many anti-Semitic views. Seem to have many anti-Semitic views. They're questioning World War II narratives. This is very dangerous. And Israel, or the U.S., or the Zionists in the U.S. are very concerned. What is the population going to be like in 5 years, in 10 years? What is sentiment towards Israel going to be like? Because the plans that Israel has is for Greater Israel to expand, to take over more of the Middle East, to take over the Sinai, to take over southern Lebanon, to advance further into Syria, to take more control of the West Bank. Obviously, we're going to take over the West Bank. Gaza, that's going to be finished. We're going to get rid of the Palestinians in Gaza once and for all, then the West Bank, then Greater Israel step by step. We're going to go to war with Iran. All of that is going to take a lot of time, and it's going to take a lot of resources that we don't have in Israel. We need the funding. We need the free money and the free weapons coming in from the US, from the UK, from France, from Germany. We need that. So we have to make sure that the public sentiment is going to be in our favor. And that is not going to happen if you bring in all of these Muslim immigrants. That's not going to happen if we bring all these Muslim immigrants. And it's also not going to happen if we have this kind of DEI policy or this woke policy of tolerance and inclusion, and you cannot demonize Muslims. You cannot talk bad about Muslims, otherwise you're going to get banned. If you criticize Islam, if you criticize Muslims, if you talk about grooming gangs, you're going to get banned, right? That was supposedly the policy. Obviously, as Muslims, we know that that wasn't actually applied. But that was the policy. There were these more protections against hate speech against Muslims since Donald Trump took office. But that's a problem for Zionism because they want to demonize Muslims. They want to make Muslims look like terrorists and groomers. So we have to loosen up these policies in the name of free speech. Elon Musk comes and, I'm a supporter of free speech. We have absolute free speech on our platform X, and I'm the hero of free speech. That's why I bought Twitter, and this is literally saving Western civilization. This is what Elon Musk says. I'm saving Western civilization by saving free speech. And I don't think that in his mind that's an exaggeration. I think that's what he actually thinks. And I think that's what the Zionists also think. They think that we have to have a platform where we can demonize Muslims, that we can portray Muslims as these terrorists and these rapists and these groomers. We need to be able to mass spread this propaganda against Muslims so that we turn the populations into anti-Muslim haters who will support endless wars in the Middle East. We can't do that under the previous liberal doctrine, under the previous Democratic Party platform of tolerance and inclusion. So that needs to be expunged. We need to get rid of that. We need to get Donald Trump back in office. And we need free speech. Free speech, of course, means trash Muslims all you want. Demonize Muslims all you want. Spread lies against Muslims all you want. These hateful accounts like from Douglas Murray, from Tommy Robinson, from Inevitable West, or whatever clones, Vice Guard or whatever, all of these anti-Muslim accounts, Ian Miles Chong, we're going to promote them. They're going to be boosted. That's free speech. But yeah, if you criticize Indians, if you criticize Hinduism, if you criticize Jews, if you criticize Zionism, no, then you're going to be deboosted. The algorithm is going to bury your account. You're not even going to be able to reach your followers. You can have 100,000 followers, but you tweet and it doesn't even reach 2,000 of them. This is free speech. It's free speech. Then you had where's the tweet? Facebook dumps fact checkers in attempt to restore free speech. Mark Zuckerberg says moderators are too politically biased as he pledges a system similar to X. And Elon says, oh, cool. Yeah, how convenient. I wonder what's going to happen on Facebook. You think that suddenly you're going to... People were getting banned off of Facebook and Instagram because they were posting about Palestinian children being bombed, Palestinian children being maimed, Palestinian children being frozen to death. They were getting banned off of Facebook and Instagram for just simply advocating for Palestinians. That is not allowed. That's hateful. You're spreading hate. Do you think that that's going to change? You think that censorship is going to change? No. All that they're allowing with free speech, when they say we're allowing free speech, all that means is anti-Muslim hate is back on the menu, boys. Anti-Muslim demonization is back on the menu. Go ahead. Depict Muslims as these groomers. Depict Muslims as terrorists. Talk about Islam as a religion of hate and violence and killing and rape. Go ahead. You can have a very lucrative influencer career on social media. Just dedicate yourself to attacking Muslims and Islam, and you're going to be boosted by Elon Musk. Now you're going to get boosted by Mark Zuckerberg. And I'm wondering when YouTube is going to start announcing policy changes like this. It's going to happen. Like that is, say goodbye. Say goodbye to the pretense or the presumption or the facade of, oh, we care about diversity and all religions and all ethnicities, and Islamophobia is bad. Islamophobia is a real problem. Like that, some of you think that that's like the norm, like that's the standard because you have only been an adult maybe since 2016 and since Donald Trump was president, maybe even later. You think that that's like the norm. No, the norm is nonstop anti-Muslim hate, nonstop anti-Islam screeds being pushed at the highest levels of Western media. That's the standard. That's the norm. It was only because Donald Trump came in and he was an anti-establishment figure back then, and he started criticizing Muslim immigration, and he's saying that we need a Muslim ban. It was only as a weapon, the establishment's weapon against Donald Trump, to portray him as an anti-Muslim bigot, and anti-Muslim bigotry is the worst thing possible. That's the only reason that the left and the Democratic platform took on this crusade or this fight against anti-Muslim bigotry and wanted to bring Muslims into the fold of, oh, this is a tapestry of America, the diversity of America. You're all equal and included. That's the only reason that the left, including the Zionists on the left, took that position. But since October 7th, and Israel's greater plans for nonstop war, we have to go back to the old guard. We have to go back to the level of demonization of Muslims that primed the Western populations to support a war in Iraq, an invasion of Iraq in 2003. The population supporting nonstop invasion and occupation over 2 decades in Afghanistan. That's the type of public sentiment that's needed. How do we get there? How do we get the population to turn against Muslims and to view Muslims as a threat such that they will support our nonstop policies for endless wars for Israel in the Middle East? That's the whole program. That's what this push for free speech is all about. That's what Elon has been commissioned to do with his platform. That's Elon's whole purpose. That's Elon's whole purpose. He's made the deal. He's made the deal for this. And Donald Trump now is just a part of the establishment. He's just another tool of the establishment. He's already made the deals, probably because he wanted to avoid jail time. He wanted to avoid being put in prison. So he made the deals with the Zionists. He took the $100 million from Miriam Adelson. Yeah, sure, I'm going to allow Israel to take over the West Bank. I'm going to allow and support increased aggression towards Iran. Maybe the U.S. is going to declare war on Iran. Donald Trump has made those deals. So the media landscape has to shift to align with those political projects. Okay, so I want to talk more about the statistics, the so-called grooming gang statistics, now that we've talked about the politics behind why this whole story has come up. But before I do that, I want to check the super chats and what you all are saying. Compton says, how many of those British chicks that got quote-unquote groomed were actually quote-unquote raped and didn't just wake up sober, regret it, and thus called it rape? Good question. I'm sure that they were all innocent little children, innocent little girls that were plucked by these evil, evil Muslims. Mujtaba says, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. Would it be advisable for UK mosques to have open invitation for non-believers to counter this propaganda that grooming gangs are being protected by Muslims? There's already a lot of statements that have been made by UK Muslim leaders condemning grooming gangs, and we'll look at that later in the stream, inshallah. But yeah, dialogue is very useful. And we'll talk more about that later in the show. Mr. Piccolo says, posts on X claim grooming gangs and child rape is justified by Quran and Hadith. Can you debunk it? They misquote the concubine verses and the following verses. Yeah, we can address that. SYA, thank you, brother, for your generous super chat. Quoting from the Quran, Al Imran, your enemies have mobilized their forces against you, so fear them. The warning only made them grow stronger in faith, and they replied, Allah is sufficient for us and is the best protector. So those who are disbelievers or they're munafiq, they tell the Muslims, your enemies have mobilized their forces against you, so fear them. Constantly fear-mongering within Muslims, so that when you fear, you're weak. When you are afraid, you become weaker, you make bad decisions. So this is a tactic of enemies to just instill fear. And Muslims have to be aware of this. Don't be afraid. Just grow stronger in your iman. If the enemies have mobilized against us, then we should grow stronger in faith, and we should rely more on Allah and recognize that the truth, the haqq, is always going to prevail. Okay. So let's look at some of the statistics. So some of the threads that are spread on X include this. Muslim grooming gangs have been found in over 50 cities and towns in the UK. In this thread, I'll post articles from every location and examine the prevalence of grooming gangs within the Muslim community in each area. Some of these numbers are truly shocking. So, Rotherham, approximately 1 in 38 adult Muslim men have been convicted for grooming gang crimes on children as young as 11. In Rockdale, 1 in 137 adult Muslim men were convicted. In Telford, 1 in 8 were identified as suspects. In Oxford, 1 in 86. In Dewsbury, 1 in 44. In Halifax, 1 in 57. In Hulme, 1 in 11. In Derby, 1 in 117. In Newcastle, 1 in 246. In Keighley, 1 in 334. In Huddersfield, 1 in 105. Bradford, 1 in 231. Bristol, 1 in 206. Peterborough, 1 in 280. Oldham, 1 in 665. Coventry, 1 in 818. Glasgow, 1 in 310. Middlesbrough, 1 in 1,140. Burton-on-Trent, 1 in 355. Hull, 1 in 22. Aylesbury, 1 in 59. Nottingham, 1 in 1,820. Sheffield, 1 in 345. Leicester, 1 in 1,750. Ipswich, 1 in 315. Briarfield, 1 in 173. Banbury, 1 in 180. High Wycombe, 1 in 250. Stockport, 1 in 595. Ilford, 1 in 1,610, etc. So this is the prevalence of grooming gangs. But why are these so divergent? Like, if this is a problem, like Muslims are just at such a higher rate than the general population or other populations, why do you go from 1 in 11 or 1 in 8, 1 in 8 to 1 in 2,000 being the rate? Like, why is that? That's a huge divergence, or that's a huge gap between 1 in 8 versus 1 in 2,000. And part of it is just the way that he's slicing the data. Like, if you look at specific towns, like some of these are very small towns. Like the overall population in the town, like the Muslim population, is just 500 Muslims, including adults, children. It's just 500 Muslims. Some of these towns are maybe even fewer than 500. So when you have just 500 people, then this is like, it becomes a sampling error. It becomes too small of a sample size to make a generalized conclusion. And this is how they're manipulating statistics. And there's that famous expression: there are lies, there are damned lies, and then there are statistics. You can do a great deal of manipulation by manipulating statistics, and this is a great example of this, because even if we just assume that everything that he's saying in this thread, all the numbers are completely accurate, He's taking from reliable census data and reliable crime statistic data, conviction rates, whatever. Let's say that the ratios there are accurate. Still, we would ask, why is there such a huge divergence depending on what town you are? If this is something endemic to Muslims or something endemic to Islam, as they claim, someone like Tommy Robinson or Douglas Murray or Elon Musk claim, then there should be more consistency. There should be more consistency, not go from 1 in 8 in one town and then another town has 1 in 2,000. Well, what's the difference? Well, what is the difference? And some of these towns are very close in geographic, in terms of space. They're neighboring towns. They're neighboring towns, but the difference is huge. So that's the one thing that we can immediately say about these statistics. Another thing that we can say about how statistics are manipulated, like let's just say that, because this is one of the claims that they make, that when you look at the rates of grooming, Muslims are grooming at 5 times the white population or 10 times the white population. 5 or 10 times. So what does that mean? Okay, so maybe 1 out of 10,000 or 1 out of a million. 1 out of a million Muslims in the UK are involved in some kind of grooming activity. Imagine 1 out of a million. Whereas with whites, it's 1 out of 5 million or 1 out of 10 million. So see, that's 10 times more. Muslims are grooming and raping at 10 times the rate of whites. This is a huge problem. This shows how dangerous these immigrants are. But you're ignoring the absolute rate. It's 1 out of a million. Or 1 out of, 500,000 or 1 out of whatever. That is very small. So how are you smearing the entire Muslim community, and you're smearing all Muslim immigrants, and you're attacking Islam as a religion based on 1 out of thousands or 1 out of millions? Would this be fair to do? And what if we have an analog of this? What if we say that when you compare, because that's a general phenomenon with immigration. When you have immigrants, there's going to be more criminality. And it doesn't matter what the race of those immigrants are. Sometimes you can have Russian immigrants who are white. You can have Eastern European immigrants who are white, and their rate of criminality as immigrants within Western European countries or even in the United States is going to be higher. Is going to be higher. Partly because they're the same race as the native population, but it's an immigrant population. So let's put that aside. But imagine you have whites in China. You have white immigrants or expats, as they're called, in China, in East Asia, in Japan. And statistically, those whites do commit more crime. They commit more crime, violent crime, rape in East Asia than the native East Asian population. They're committing more crime than the Chinese, than the Japanese, than the Koreans, than the Thais. White Europeans are committing a higher rate of crime. And you can say, oh, look, when it comes to violent grooming or rape of East Asians, it's 1 out of 10 million. But the whites are doing rape at a rate of 1 out of a million. It's 10 times worse. So all of these whites coming into East Asian countries, we should consider them to be a threat. They're part of these grooming gangs. They're doing mass rape. We have to block whites from coming into our East Asian countries. These are criminals. How would white nationalists or some of these promoters of right-wing populism, how would they react to an argument like that? It's the same exact thing. It's the same exact argument. You're just manipulating statistics. It's a fact. 10 times. Whites are committing rape at 10 times the rate, or 5 times, or double the rate of East Asians. So East Asians should bar no more whites coming into our countries. You can't forget about vacation, forget about holidays, forget about being a passport bro and coming into China, Japan, Korea, Thailand. Forget about that. How would they respond to that kind of argument? And then furthermore, many of the immigrants that are committing the higher rate of crime in some of these Western countries, it's not a Muslim background. Many of them are coming from a Christian background. Many of them are coming from Latin America, or they're coming from sub-Saharan Africa, and they're Christians. They're Christians. Shouldn't they be accused of committing a kind of Christian criminality, Christian war against the secular West? They're coming in, these Christians, and they have a higher level of crime. They have a higher level of rape and grooming. And guess what? When it comes to Christianity, there is a just war doctrine in Christianity, in both Catholicism and Protestantism, where when you're engaged in war, you can steal, you can kill, you can do all of those things. Yeah, so you have these Christians who are coming into the West. They're coming in from Latin America, they're coming in from sub-Saharan Africa, and they're committing these crimes at a higher rate than the native population. This is a Christian operation. These are Christian gangs who are waging a crusade against the secular West, the secular atheist West. Why don't we see that argument from Douglas Murray? Why don't we see that argument from Tommy Robinson? It's the same exact argument. This is what they say about Muslims. They say, oh, Islam has jihad doctrine. Islam has a doctrine of war where you can go as a Muslim and you can kill and you can pillage, you can take concubines, as it says in the Quran. It says in the Quran. And as the super chat was wanting me to address, this is why I'm addressing. Yeah, we do have a doctrine within Islam. When it comes to war, these things can become permissible. But that's not the same as being an immigrant and living and residing within a country. Same exact thing with Christianity. Christianity has a just war doctrine. They have the idea that within war, soldiers can do things that they normally wouldn't be able to do to civilians. They can do things that they wouldn't normally be able to do because it's a war circumstance. It's a war context. Christianity has all of those principles. Christianity has all of those laws. And by the way, that's exactly what they're doing to the Muslim world as we speak. 24, 25 years of the war on terror. They have been doing all this stuff. And they consider it's a war context. It's a war context. So why don't you have the same arguments for the Christian immigrants that are coming into the West? So this completely destroys the Tommy Robinson style argument, the Douglas Murray style argument. This is just dishonest, and especially because they're Zionists. And as we have discussed many times on this channel, when you look and when you want to do a comparison between Islam and Christianity, yeah, there are a lot of similarities in the fact that you have certain laws that are only applicable in wartime. And Islam and Christianity are very similar in those respects. But then you have a religion like Judaism, and Judaism actually allows Jews to steal, and it commands Jews actually to steal and to take advantage of a host population, even outside of wartime. That's the difference between Judaism and Islam and Christianity. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that all Jews follow Judaism. Obviously, many Jews are opposed to Judaism and these kinds of racially motivated laws that are found in not only the Bible, but also the Talmud, not only in Rabbinic Judaism. Many Jews reject Rabbinic Judaism. But if we're in the business of comparing religions, and you have all of these Zionists, and many of them are Zionist Jews who are constantly attacking Islam, constantly depicting Muslims as these groomers, as these rapists. You have someone like Bill Ackman, this tech billionaire who has dedicated so much of his money to attacking Muslims and advocating for Zionists to continue to genocide the Palestinian people. If Bill Ackman can talk about Muslims and he can talk about the laws within Islam, can we not also talk a little bit about Judaism and what Judaism teaches? Can we do like an objective academic comparison? I think it's important to be, as part of the academic project to investigate religions and do these kinds of comparisons, compare and contrast Islam with Judaism and Christianity. Yeah, this is a big difference between Islam and Judaism. So this is another argument that can be made. Now imagine, again, going back to the China example, you have these immigrants coming into China or Japan, and they're Christians. And because they're immigrants, or for whatever reason you want to give, maybe it's racial, these white Christian immigrants, for example, or forget, maybe they're not white, whatever they are, whatever demographic, but they're Christian, and they're coming into East Asia and they're committing higher rates of crime, violent crime. And then the East Asians in China and Japan and Korea, they say that these Christians are coming into our country and they have this Christian doctrine of war. They have had a history of crusades. They have had a history of colonizing East Asia. Ever since Magellan came and sailed around the world, you have the Spanish, you have the Portuguese, you have the Dutch, you have the British, you have the French, in a long history of colonization of our lands, mass killing, mass theft of our lands in East Asia. And now here we are in the 21st century. And once again, these Christians have come and they want to settle in our lands. They want to do their, they want to marry our women, but they're committing higher rates of crime. Sometimes 5 times, sometimes 10 times more than our populations, our East Asian populations. This is a Christian crusade. This is a Christian crusade against our peaceful, Confucian, atheist societies. We can't allow it. No Christians allowed. We don't care if they're white, they're black, they're Hispanic. No Christians allowed. This is a Christian crusade. What would people say to that? Like, people would say, this is ridiculous. This is paranoia. This is unhinged. Yet they say the same exact thing with the same exact argument against Muslims. So if these conservatives or white nationalists or these MAGA-tard populists are consistent, be consistent. Be consistent in your argumentation. If you wouldn't accept that kind of Chinese or Japanese or Korean argument against Christians or against whites, then why are you accepting it when it comes to Muslims and Islam? That is a very simple question that can be asked. And then another way that the statistics are manipulated is that they are focusing on this issue of the grooming gangs and what are the ratios there. But if you expand the question to just child molestation and the molestation of children more broadly, because that includes more than just a grooming gang or prostitution. That also involves, when it comes to teachers molesting children, it also comes to child indecent images, and the trafficking of images of children. If you include all of the offenses against children, sexual offenses against children, then suddenly the numbers tell a very different story. And there's 2021 statistics from the Ministry of Justice, as well as the Office for National Statistics. When you look at percentage in England and Wales of these child offenses, it's 89% white. 89% white. And then people, and in the replies you can see to this tweet, and shout out to Muslim Cyan for giving me this data. Go follow him on Twitter. He's the moderator in the chat as well. Hopefully he's still on. But in the replies, like, oh, look at per capita. Look at per capita. What's the per capita? That's all these people can say. But yeah, okay, let's look at the per capita. So this is the report. It's coming from the Center of Expertise on Child Sexual Abuse. The report is Child Sexual Abuse in 2020-2021, trends in official data. So this is an official government report. And then you can see proportion of defendants proceeded against for child sexual abuse offenses in the general population by broad ethnic group 2020 in England and Wales. And you can see the right hand bar is the population broken down. White is the majority, 87%. And then you have Asian at 6%, which the Pakistanis are in that group, and other South Asians. And then black, mixed, and Chinese at 2%. And then you have the defendants proceeded against for those abuses in 2020, 89% white. So it's disproportionately white. Because they're only 87% of the population, but they're doing 89% of the child abuse crimes. It's actually disproportionately white. There's your per capita. With Asians at 6%, which is in line with the size of the population. So yeah, it's telling lies with statistics. And even, look, that's what we've talked about, right? We've talked about how they manipulate the statistics, but even if we forget about their manipulation of statistics, and we just accept, okay, yeah, 1 out of 8 Muslims are involved in grooming in this one random town in the UK. Okay, fine, let's accept that. Even if we accept that argument, the data doesn't add up. The proportions or the rates vary widely depending on the town that you're looking at, and that's probably because the size of the population is vastly different depending on what town you're looking at and how you're drawing those lines. And then we look at the principle of it when it comes to the rates. Is it 1 in 10,000, 1 in a million? You can make the same exact argument against whites, against Christians, in a completely different context like East Asia. But they won't accept those types of arguments. So, and then there's another example that they will never accept. What about when it comes to gender? Gender, the feminist argument is that all men are trash. All men should be assumed to be rapists. Why? Look, the vast majority of rape is done by men. It's done by men. It's at a rate of 1,000 times more than women. So therefore, let's paint all men as rapists. Isn't that the feminist argument? If these right-wing populists or white nationalists are consistent, why don't they accept the feminist argument? In fact, that's a much greater disparity between the rape rates where men are perpetrators versus women than Muslim versus non-Muslim, or Muslim versus or immigrant versus native white. It's even a greater disparity. So you should accept the feminist argument. That's the same kind of manipulation of statistics that you're doing. But they would never accept that because they're hypocrites. Now let's look at someone in the super chat was claiming, well, can't Muslims denounce what's happening with these grooming gangs? The thing is that they have. Sky News reporting back in 2013, Muslim leaders deliver anti-grooming sermons. Sermons are delivered at hundreds of mosques across Britain to highlight how the Quran condemns sexual indecency. Channel 4 News, Muslim leaders condemn child sex grooming. This was in 2013. The Independent reports, Muslims unite to condemn extreme depravity of child grooming in the first UK-wide single sermon. 500 imams will deliver the unprecedented address following several abuse cases involving Muslim men. BBC News, Muslim religious leaders condemn child sex grooming. This is all from 2013. So the whole news that Elon has been dredging up to launch this Zionist campaign against Muslims in the UK, this is from 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. Muslims have condemned this. Muslims en masse have condemned this. Imams, this is The Guardian, imams in 500 mosques denounce grooming and abuse of children. Coordinated effort to deliver same sermon across the country follows convictions of Muslim men for series of horrific cases. So this is what is being, this is the response from the Muslim community in the UK. Muslims have been very clear. Muslims have been very clear in denouncing. Recently, you have all of these examples of Palestinian prisoners being gang raped in Israeli prison by the IDF. And those soldiers are paraded around Israel as heroes. Where are the synagogues that are condemning that? Where are the synagogues who are putting out sermons or putting out services where they're condemning this kind of sexual violence and abuse against Palestinians? We don't see that. And then there was a massive case recently uncovered of a grooming gang and a sex trafficking case led by Hasidic Jews. Hasidic Jews who were preying on hundreds of children, hundreds of little children, and bodies were found. They were not only grooming them, not only raping them, they were also killing them. And this was uncovered in South America, in Guatemala, I believe. And that gets buried. None of the news covers that. Elon Musk isn't tweeting about that. I wonder why. Instead, we're talking about a 10-year-old case involving Muslims that Muslims have denounced. Muslims have condemned very clearly. Yet you're still wanting to blame Islam. You still want to blame Muslims. You still want to blame Muslim immigrants. How can we take this seriously? How can we not see this as anything other than obvious propaganda? Propaganda for the state of Israel, propaganda for Zionism. How can anyone see it as anything other than that? This I thought was an interesting comment as well on Twitter by Whitney Webb. Whitney Webb says, an imaginary scenario, completely hypothetical, by the way. Elon Musk says, oh no, the people I've been manipulating into liking me through video game posts and anti-DEI tweets don't like me anymore because I revealed my true political motives that they don't actually like. Referring to the H-1B visa scandal in Christmas, where he says, if you disagree with him on visas and bringing in more Indian immigrants, then you can step back and expletive your own face. 2 days later, Musk says, I'm a super based ultra Pepe meme again, guys, and I'm going to tweet about how I'm a hardcore Path of Exile player. 2 days later, Musk says, oh no, it's not working anymore. Time to call up the Pentagon, which I contract for, and ask for backup. Cybertruck explodes courtesy, allegedly, of active duty U.S. Special Forces guy. Musk says, behold, my Cybertruck is terror-proof. Now I'll tweet nonstop about Tommy Robinson and boost accounts claiming that the recent false flag terror attacks were caused by Muslim immigrants. See, I think some immigrants are bad guys. Even though no Muslim immigrants were involved, and Al-Qaeda and ISIS are run by the same parts of the U.S. national security state that I work for, coincidentally. I clearly frame this as imaginary. It's merely a speculative thought exercise and is meant to point out how easily people can forget recent events in the age of social media and quickly be sucked into and manipulated by new narratives. I don't think this necessarily happened, but what does she say? But very few people in alternative quote-unquote media are regurgitating obvious BS about AQ and ISIS somehow being not U.S. proxies now and have lost the ability to even consider cui bono when dealing with the world's richest and most powerful people. Very convenient that alternative media is not speculating about this imaginary scenario. Some alternative media, obviously. Okay, so this is Elon Musk. What is really going on? Who is he really working for? He is very closely aligned or he is one of the biggest defense contractors for the U.S. government. People don't realize that. You have SpaceX, obviously, billions in dollars of government contracts coming through SpaceX. You have his whole satellite network, Starlink. Starlink is also being funded by the U.S. government. So he has billions and billions in government contracts. So he is going to have a very big role in Donald Trump's government just because of how he's positioned himself. And, you know, it's not just defense, it's also media, because he has the social media platform of X, and he is seeming to rally these tech billionaires behind his cause and behind his purpose. The psyop is, oh, I'm a populist working for the American people, fighting against these Islamists, against these Muslim groomers. We need to fight back. But in reality, he's looking out for his own economic interests and the interests of his Zionist handlers. Simple as. That's what it is, bottom line. Okay, now you have Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate getting involved and making all of these nonsensical statements. Andrew Tate simping for white nationalists and populists. And it's quite a disgusting display, unfortunately. He says, there is an Islamic crime problem within the UK. This is an objective fact. This should outrage Muslims. Instead, Muslims rush to deny the issue or defend the perpetrators. Rape is illegal in Islamic countries, punishable by death, as is illegally invading and occupying lands. You cannot enter Qatar or Bahrain illegally. There is a problem with Islamic crime which must be accepted before it's addressed. There's nothing that is worse for the reputation of Islam than watching Muslims defend child rapists, and you wonder why Islam is disliked in Christian nations. So how much is wrong with this statement? And we've told Andrew Tate over and over and over again, why are you amplifying this Zionist message? Why are you taking these statistics, which are decontextualized and manipulated for the purpose of demonizing Muslims and all of Islam? Why don't you have a more critical eye? I had a whole live stream dedicated to this, and I'm pretty sure he watched it. Why do you keep falling into this Zionist narrative? Like, who are you simping for? Like, who's really paying you? Who is really controlling you, Andrew Tate? So we've told him about this, and still he insists on calling it Islamic crime, attributing crime to not only all Muslims, but to Islam as a whole. And so I replied to him, no one is denying that crime is committed by some Muslims. We're denying that you spreading this Zionist narrative of Muslims as a fifth column enemy of white civilization. That's the problem. That's the problem. You are boosting a narrative that is harmful to Muslims. Now, people can say that, well, Daniel, there are these legitimate concerns. There are legitimate concerns about Muslim crime. There is legitimate concern about immigration causing societal problems. And I'll be the first to say that I'm sympathetic. I'm sympathetic to these grievances. Why? Because it is true that we are in an economic depression in the West. There is an economic depression. Costs of living is going up. People are suffering. They can't make ends meet. And this causes anxiety. It causes stress. It causes lashing out. It causes hate. People are suffering. And we know historically, as economic times become harder, racial tensions increase. Racial violence increases. So it's not like I'm saying that this kind of concern for immigration is just purely a psyop. That's effective propaganda. Effective propaganda doesn't just invent something out of thin air like, oh, these immigrants are so bad. No. it's based on actual grievance. It's based on actual. I'm not saying the grievance is necessarily justified, but people do have grievances just on the basis of going out, going to their schools, going to the supermarket, going to their jobs, making that paycheck that's not able to pay the rent for the month or buy groceries for the month. Those problems exist within society, within the UK, within the US, and the West in general. But the effectiveness of the Zionist propaganda and this kind of populist propaganda is to prey on that grievance and throw gasoline on it. Throw gasoline on it so that it becomes inflamed into this huge scandal, that causes riots, to cause violence, to cause protests at mosques. That's what they're doing. So I don't think it's actually effective for Muslims to just say, oh, well, this is Islamophobia. This is just racism. If you don't like immigration, if you think there's a problem with immigration, that means that you're a racist. This is increasingly ineffective. Maybe it was effective 10 years ago, maybe. And still, the ethics of using that kind of argument are questionable, because all you're doing is you're using social stigma to silence what are potentially important grievances that people have. So I don't think that Muslims should use this card, like the racism card or the Islamophobia card, and let that be the end of the discussion. It's not, first of all, the ethics of that are questionable. Secondly, it's not going to be effective, because that kind of liberal talking point or left-wing talking point that, oh, you're a racist, therefore I can just shut you down, it's not going to be effective. It's already not effective as a response. So what is the proper response? The proper response, I believe, is to just understand principles, basic principles that everyone should agree to. The situation with immigration is a product of Western activity, Western imperialism, Western wars that are ongoing. There's an ongoing genocide of Muslims, ongoing genocide of Muslims, and a ethnic cleansing, pushing Muslims out of their lands. You have Western governments openly talking and planning about possible war with Iran. So what do you think is going to happen when you are decimating the entire globe, bombing, occupying, genociding? What do you think that's going to do for immigration? And then you have these people in the West, whether they're white or whatever, European or whatever, saying, oh, well, I can't be held responsible. I can't be held responsible for what my government does. My hands are clean. I don't want these wars. I don't want Palestinians to be genocided. My hands are clean from this. So you want to saddle all Muslims and all Islam with the crimes of a few Muslims, with these gangs, whether they're grooming gangs or other criminal gangs. You want to saddle all immigrants with those crimes and say, all Muslims are responsible. We're going to kick you all out. We're going to deport you all based on the actions of the few. But when it's your own government, oh no, you're innocent. Your hands are clean. Wait, I thought this was a democracy. I thought it was a democracy where you elect your leaders. Isn't that the case? Aren't you electing these leaders, these politicians? So how is it possible that you're not responsible at all for the policies of your governments? Not for just the past 10 years or the past 20 years. We're talking about the past 200 years of Western civilization with colonialism and imperialism against the global South and the Muslim world. You can't be held responsible for any of that, but Muslims are responsible for the grooming gangs, right? Is that the argument that you're making? Is that the argument? Muslims are responsible for these grooming gangs, even though 500 mosques all unified to condemn those gangs, to condemn those crimes. Muslims, all Muslims around the world, Islam as a religion is responsible for that. But you can't be responsible for the fact that there are military bases in pretty much every single Muslim country. Every single Muslim country in the world is occupied by a Western military base. You can't be held responsible for that, when in reality, this MAGA crowd, these Donald Trump supporters, many of them served in the military or are still serving in the military. Your family members are serving in this military that is occupying and invading and killing in the Muslim world. But oh no, we can't be held responsible for that. Oh no. Our hands are clean. Who can take this seriously? If you have a grievance economically, which you do, I'm not denying that. People are struggling. It's hard times all around. Direct it at the people responsible. Direct your grievance to those who are responsible for your current situation. If tomorrow you get rid of all of the immigrants and you mass deport all the immigrants and you have your white nation, do you think that's going to bring your wife back, your wife and kids, your feminist wife who left you, and your children who are now LGBT? Do you think that's going to change? Any of that is going to change just because you have a white nation? Do you think your economic situation is going to improve? Because if you're consistent and you want to deport all of the non-whites from your countries, okay, well, those countries are going to reciprocate. They should, on your principle, kick out all of the white, foreign, European influence, cut off. No more global control of the world by the West. No more economic perks because you control literally every single market in the world at gunpoint. Say goodbye to all of that. You think your economic situation is going to improve? No, it's going to get worse. You're going to basically kick out the globalist Elon Musk, right? You're going to kick out these globalists who want to dominate the world's resources. If you're consistent, your economic situation is going to get potentially a lot worse before it gets any better. Your liberalism, the invention of the white mind, the high IQ white mind, liberal secularism, is going to bring the destruction, continued destruction of the family unit, continuous destruction of religion, continuous destruction of tradition and heritage. Get rid of all of the non-white immigrants. Get rid of all of the non-white people within your countries. See if that stops the slide into atheistic degeneracy. Atheistic degeneracy, and eventually this kind of technocratic dystopia, this kind of 1984 or Blade Runner dystopia that your civilization is headed towards. Go ahead. Instead of being a multiracial dystopia, it's going to be a white dystopia. Go ahead and have fun with that. And this is the point that I bring up against these white nationalists in debate, and I've won every debate that I've had with a white nationalist. They can't respond to these basic points. And these are the kinds of arguments that we should make. We should be clear that, yes, there are these economic grievances. Don't deny it. Don't deny that, yeah, the native populations are feeling the pressure, and they just want to blame the immigrants. But the immigrants are not to blame for this situation. The people who are to be blamed for this situation are these liberal, secular, technocratic, globalist, Zionists. They're the ones who need to be blamed, and it's their policies that are creating the suffering that you are experiencing. That is the response. If you just say, oh, you're just an Islamophobe, you're just a racist, like, this is not sufficient. Not sufficient and not compelling. It just makes Muslims look like we're hiding something, or that we can't address their arguments. I pointed this out. I pointed this out because I had a debate with Keith Woods, and you can go to my Rumble channel, Muslim versus white nationalist debate on immigration. Okay, go to Rumble, subscribe to the channel, and watch this debate. It was a 2-hour debate hosted by or moderated by Sneeko. And see, like, he couldn't respond to the basic arguments that I was making. So that whites don't have a problem. Whites don't have any problem with being surrounded by a sea of non-whites. In fact, that's been the standard for whites, because whites would go to India or whites would go to North Africa or to Egypt, and they would be these colonizers, and they enjoyed, cheap labor, cheap non-white labor, as they live as kings, as elites within these non-white regions. That is the history of European colonialism, especially post-Enlightenment, post-scientific revolution. These white elites enjoy being surrounded by non-whites as long as they are elites who can control and dominate the non-whites. Then it's no problem. The only problem that these white nationalists have with immigration is the fact that now immigrants are increasing in their numbers and they can vote. Therefore, they can influence policies, and therefore they can potentially exercise power over whites. And that is intolerable. We cannot have that. We cannot have that. This is the whole. So in reality, many of these white nationalists, they don't have a problem being surrounded by a sea of non-whites. In fact, they seek that out. They go on vacation, they go on holiday to non-white countries, and they have a grand old time because their European money can buy a lot, in Thailand or in Indonesia or in Egypt, wherever, Turkey. They enjoy it, yeah. We love to go vacation in these non-white countries, have a grand old holiday. The problem that they have with immigration is that these immigrants have rights. These immigrants have rights and they can vote, and we don't like that. We don't want that. That's the main problem. Otherwise, if they're going to come and be our slaves, and that's the kind of mindset, that's exactly Elon Musk's mindset. Like, that's the whole point of bringing in all these Indians to fill up his tech jobs at his companies. They will work more for less money. Elon has no problem with that because he's at a level of money where that doesn't become an issue. But those who are in the middle class, there's no longer enough of a differentiation in power between them as a white middle class and these immigrants who are coming to the U.S., and they're able to vote. They're able to advance socially and economically. This now suddenly it becomes intolerable. And now suddenly it becomes intolerable. So check out that debate. You will enjoy it if you haven't watched it already. If you just want more analysis on these issues. Yeah, so Andrew Tate blocked me. Andrew Tate, because I keep pointing out. So here was a tweet from Update News. I don't know what that is. Pakistani men make up 1% of the UK population, but the Cockbain report claims that they're responsible for 80% of group rape. Okay. Again, notice how it's deceptively framed. Like, okay, maybe gang activity is more of a minority type of activity, but that doesn't mean the absolute rate. If you include just individuals committing sexual abuse or molestation, what do the numbers look like when you include all of that? And as we saw, whites are overrepresented in those kinds of crimes. So then Andrew Tate says, not once I take control. You're getting back on the effing boat. So Pakistani men, you're getting back on the boat if Andrew Tate becomes prime minister. Like, this is how Andrew Tate treats his main supporters. Like, arguably one of the biggest demographic of people that have supported Andrew Tate at his lowest period, by the way, when he was in prison. and he was being accused of all kinds of heinous crimes, his biggest supporters, including me, who was coming out and debating someone like Destiny, saying that Andrew Tate, these charges against him are bogus. Pakistani Muslims are the biggest defenders of Andrew Tate, and then this is how he repays us. This is how he repays you. He says, I'm going to put you back on the effing boat because what? Like, how is that a reasonable statement to make? Because he's not even nuancing it. He's saying, no, you're Pakistani men, you're getting back on the boat. You're getting back once I take power. So then I tweeted, or I quote tweeted, I said, how far will Tate bend over for white approval? So honest question, right? Because he is now antagonizing Muslims, throwing us under the bus. And then Tate responds. He says, any foreign citizen of any race, any color, Hindu, Christian, Muslim alike, will be deported if they commit crimes under my administration. You call that bending over. I call it competent leadership. Leaders have a duty to those who elect them. So he's just walking it back. His original statement wasn't qualified. So now, okay, it's not all Pakistani men. It's just the foreign citizen of any race, any color, Hindu, Christian, Muslim. He didn't mention white. He didn't mention Jew. So foreign means foreign. So white and Jews, I guess, are indigenous. So if you are white and Jewish and commit crimes, no problem for Andrew Tate. But if you are foreign, however he defines foreign, and it doesn't matter what religion you are, Hindu, Christian, or Muslim, if you commit a crime, you're gonna be deported. You're gonna be deported. Okay. Now, after you get called out, then you have to qualify, and still, what you're proposing is ridiculous. It is still quite ridiculous. Don't deport the whites committing heinous crimes who are grooming girls or raping them. Don't deport the pederasts because they're white. They're white. Yeah, I do call that bending over. I do call that bending over for white nationalists, actually. Then our brother Muhammad Hijab has been involved. Muhammad Hijab has been going out at Elon Musk. He's been tweeting at Andrew Tate. But people are getting mad at Muhammad Hijab for this tweet. Hijab says, if we increase our birth rates, Muslims can be assured to be 10% of Britain and 20% of France in 2050, despite any policy changes in immigration. We're not the Zionist lobby. Our strength is not in our ability to influence politicians. Our strength is in our numbers. So this is what our brother Muhammad Hijab said, and people were livid. A lot of the white nationalists started spurring out, oh, see, they want to conquer us. And then you had a lot of Madkhalis and then other Muslims saying, this is not the right time. Why are you saying this? This is only going to further inflame tensions. This is only going to make us as Muslim immigrants look worse. So we got a lot of this kinds of criticism. And I'm not saying that it was the best kind of tweet to put out. I would maybe question, are the optics right for this tweet at this time? We can disagree. We can respectfully disagree. But some of these critics of Muhammad Hijab were going way overboard. Some people were even takfiring Muhammad Hijab, saying he's a Zionist agent, etc. So I said, people need to get off of Hijab's back for this. For the past week, millions of Wignats, these white nationalists activated by Musk, have been bashing Islam, calling Muslims rapists, and demanding mass deportation. Now those same people are clutching their pearls when Muslims clap back, cry more. So yeah, let's give our brother Muhammad Hijab a break. Let's cut him some slack. And this is the recurring pattern with white nationalists. They beat their chest about the Crusades. Islam is a desert religion. Send all Muslims back. Deport all Muslims. These groomers. And then when Muslims respond, in turn, they whine about, oh, we just want a home. Why can't we have a home for just white people? And that was actually part of the dynamic in the debate that I had with Keith Woods. Because you had people like Nick Fuentes, and other white identitarians that were beating their chests and saying, oh, we're the superior race. You know, these immigrants, they eat cats and dogs. These immigrants are just groomers. They're disgusting. They can't build anything. We are the white race. We are superior to them. We brought civilization. We brought technological advancement and science. We've gone to the moon. That's what white people have done. So screw these immigrants, these brown people. They're disgusting. And then Muslims respond. Like, we respond and say, chill, you know, this is know your place. Let's talk about what whites have actually done. Whites are the ones who introduced liberal secularism. Whites are the ones who introduced atheism and weaponized atheism against the world. Whites are the ones who have spread all of these kinds of technologies that have destroyed traditional life around the world and force it on people around the world. Let's be holistic. If you want to talk about the good that one race has done, we can also talk about the bad. You know, you just want to focus on the bad that blacks and browns do. Okay, let's talk about the bad things that have come from the white European race. We can play that game. And then, oh, they start clutching their pearls. Oh, you're so mean. We just want a home. We just want our own lands. Japan is for the Japanese. China is for the Chinese. Pakistan is for the Pakistanis. What about the whites? We don't have a home. We just want a full home for ourselves. So this is the game played by white nationalists. They want to play innocent. They want to play this game against Muslims. And then someone like Muhammad Hijab comes and claps back and says, yeah, you want to play tough. You want to beat your chest about how you're so superior and how we're inferior. You can't even maintain a birth rate. Your fertility rates are plummeting. You're going to go extinct. The only way that you can support the infrastructure that you have within the West is through mass immigration. If the immigrants leave, your birth rate is not going to be able to sustain a population that can maintain this infrastructure that you are dependent on within the West. When a Muslim comes and says that and makes that obvious point that, oh, I can't believe that you are criticizing us, you ungrateful immigrant, you ungrateful immigrants coming to our lands. So this is... So, subhanAllah. Okay, back to the super chat, guys. I want to see if you guys have any comments. I've covered the main points that I wanted to cover for today's show. I do want to get into reactions as well. Oh, here is Cobra Tate, Andrew Tate blocking me. Oh, I hurt the alpha male's feelings. Oh. Yeah, I'm very critical of Andrew Tate. Like, we gave him the benefit of the doubt, remember? I said that from the very beginning. I said, look, Andrew Tate, he's being canceled by Muslims and being takfired by feminists. Feminists are literally saying, I'm going to leave Islam if Andrew Tate becomes Muslim. And these compassionate imams are saying, oh, Andrew Tate, we don't know what he's about. And he is clearly a hateful bigot just because he has these red pill talking points. And I said, look, you know, red pill has some issues, obviously, but red pill as a critique of feminism is perfectly valid. It's perfectly valid, first of all. Second of all, he's a new Muslim. We shouldn't take him as a role model. We shouldn't put him on a pedestal, but we shouldn't takfir him. We should be happy that a big influencer like this has come into the fold, and he's going to influence many others to become Muslim as well. So we should welcome that, and we should embrace him with open arms. But we don't promote him as a role model. That's what I said from the very beginning. And throughout the years, I have criticized him, and I have said that, look, you know, he's a new Muslim. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to get certain things wrong. When he says something wrong, we criticize him. We criticize him and we correct him publicly. That's always been my stance. And that's actually what I have been practicing. That's what I've been practicing. So up until today, if he says something stupid, increasingly he has less of an excuse. You can't keep throwing the Muslim community under the bus and expect the Muslims to support you. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So I am perfectly fine with him blocking me. Who cares? It's not like I'm following closely what Andrew Tate posts. I've already said that his whole advice to Muslims is, or to youth in general, is stupid. If you follow Tate's advice and you're just a teenager, you haven't worked in a day in your life, and he's telling, oh, escape the matrix, make sure you become an entrepreneur, go and do Hustlers University. Like, if you follow that advice, I'm afraid you're going to fail. You're going to have a life of hardship because you can't get economically stable when you have literally no experience, no connections professionally, and you want to become an entrepreneur. That's only going to work for 1 in a million. You're going to be rolling the dice or playing the lotto trying to make it with that kind of escape the matrix, Hustlers University mindset. Instead, go and try to get a professional job. Go learn a skill. Go learn a trade. Go get an internship. Make connections. Develop a CV or a resume and build a stable income by working 9 to 5, by working in the matrix. It's going to benefit you. That's always my advice, but it's practical advice. So it's not sexy advice. It's not exciting. It's not giving you the promise of, oh, you're going to be a millionaire and you're going to be driving Bugattis like Andrew Tate. That's the kind of advice that gets you millions of followers when you sell that fantasy to people to get them to sign up for your Hustlers University or to buy your latest cryptocurrency. That's the kind of message that you have. But if you have a message there, you want to actually help people, you want people to actually be stable and successful in their lives. It's not sexy. It's not a Bugatti. It's not what color is your Bugatti. So people are not going to follow that to the same extent or care. Let's go to the super chat. I don't know what this means. No Pakistani grooming gangs in USA, Canada, or Australia. Yeah, I mean, we don't have the same like the UK thing is a UK thing. That's a good point. Like, if it is a Muslim thing, then why aren't there these grooming gangs by Muslim immigrants in other Western countries? It's like a specifically UK thing. And it seems to be localized in certain UK towns, as we saw from the statistics. Thank you for your super chat, brother. All these attempts of demonizing Islam and Muslims are a blank to continue the genocide in Palestine and destroy Al-Aqsa. We must resist and remain brave. Thank you, brother. Baron says, when do you plan to add Turkish subtitles for Genius of Islam Part 2 and 3? Please make it soon. We really need it. And when is episode 4 coming out? We're still working on episode 4. There's been a lot of delays, unfortunately. But we're still working on it, and we want to make sure it's a really good episode. Inshallah, Turkish subtitles, hopefully we'll get on that. It would be good if we can do a Turkish dub. That might be better to dub the episodes. That's what we're planning. Chocolate Walla, appreciate your super chat, bro. I think Republicans and globalists' attempt to ban abortion has less to do with their faith, but rather this population crisis versus immigrants. Perhaps. But it's never going to happen. You can't just change abortion policy and expect the population or the birth rate to go back up. There is a more systematic problem, and it has to do with feminism. It has to do with women's empowerment. unless you take away those kinds of feminist rights and feminist empowerment of women, women are not going to voluntarily choose to become wives and mothers. That's just a fact. You can have government programs banning abortion, incentivizing having kids through tax breaks. You can have all of those programs. Those programs already exist in the West, but it's not enough to reverse the population decline. Richards, thank you for your super chat. Trump and Musk are analogous to Fir'aun and Haman, perhaps. In UK settlement application, you must declare any beliefs that contradict fundamental liberal values, and you disavow harm towards their allies overseas. Yes, this is, you have to declare your allegiance to British values. Not sure what that is in response to. Now I'm looking at the general chat if you have any comments. Fitness stream when, like what to eat and what not to. Maybe I'll do a fitness, like a show dedicated to fitness, but I was just waiting to fully hit my own goals. So I was thinking, let me hit my goals, and then I'll give you the fitness or diet stream or show. But it seems like a lot of you are very interested in this, are very interested in weight loss. So maybe I'll do it sooner. We'll see. Hello, Zoomer. How's it going, bro? Elon fell off. Yeah, maybe he fell off, or maybe this was his plan all along. In my eyes, says Haytham, the pseudo-traditionalists who claim not to be right-wing have turned out to be the biggest hypocrites, no matter how anti-woke they claim to be. Pseudo-traditionalists who are anti-woke. Who fits that bill or that description? I'm not sure. Oh, you mean like non-Muslims? So they claim not to be right wing, so they're left wing, but they're also anti woke. I would mute and block Andrew Tate back. Since him blocking you deep boost your X account, we have nothing to do with what he posts and talks about anymore. Clearly, he's a munafiq and a scammer who only cares about money. Yeah, I guess I will block him back. That's a good point. I don't know if... I don't think we should call him a munafiq in the sense of he's non-Muslim. I don't think we can takfir him. But if you mean he's like backstabbing the Muslim community, then yeah, I agree. I think he's throwing the Muslim community under the bus. So I think that we should be very clear on that. He's a hypocrite in that sense. Okay, so here we want to block Andrew Tate. Here's Andrew Tate. Block. There we go. So good suggestion, brother. Live blocking, yeah. Yeah, let's all go block Andrew Tate. Yeah, just go ahead and block Andrew Tate. Not gonna read that comment. Yeah, I mean, my wider comments on Andrew Tate, if you want me to be so honest, I was happy about Andrew Tate becoming Muslim, obviously, because that has a lot of benefits for dawah and more people learning about Islam. But as far as Andrew Tate's actual work, and you can go to the early live streams where I review some of Andrew Tate's videos or his discussions with Pierce Morgan and others. The content of what Andrew Tate says, it's like just another version of red pill talking points. And I don't know why Andrew Tate making red pill talking points went so viral, super viral around the world, where other people had been making those points for years. I think it was just the fact that Andrew Tate was saying it in a cool way while he's wearing sunglasses, smoking cigars, and standing next to his Ferrari or his Bugatti. I think that kind of materialism really took a lot of these red pill talking points to the next level. And it really appealed to a certain kind of crowd, certain kind of materialistic crowd. He gave that promise of wealth if you were just a hustler like him. But in terms of the actual content of what he's teaching, I didn't find them to be that insightful. I didn't find them to be that groundbreaking. Yeah, these are standard red pill talking points. You're not really adding anything to it. And that's always been my position on Andrew Tate. I've been very consistent on that. And I've consistently criticized his advice to youth and this promise of wealth through escaping the matrix. It's not good advice, and it destroys a lot of Muslim youth because instead of going into jobs where they could learn skills and learn the businesses, they try to be entrepreneurs and they fail. The vast majority fail, and then they have no second option because they wasted their time. So that is my take on Andrew. And the stuff about him, like the accusations against him and webcam business, whatever. Yeah, obviously webcamming, this is disgusting, this is denounceable, but he himself moved away from that business. And I think the accusations that were made against him that he is involved in trafficking, that is nonsense. Like, that's just feminist nonsense. And it wasn't substantiated, and that's why they couldn't convict him in the Romanian court. Thank you, brother Ahmed, for your super chat. You've given enough spices to the main Taghut. Stay safe, brother, from Hizb Shaitan via reciting one juz of Quran every day. Your brother in faith, Sayyid Ahmed Imam. Thank you, brother. This is another super chat. Do you think this anti-Pakistani agenda is due to Pakistan developing nuclear-armed ICBMs that will reach the US? A Turkish MP has said this. There's definitely a push against Pakistan, a lot of pressure coming against them. And I don't think that Pakistan has ICBMs that can reach the US. They have ICBMs that can reach Israel, they wouldn't be called ICBMs. They're not intercontinental. They're mid-range. So they have mid-range ballistic missiles. But has Pakistan indicated any kind of animosity towards Israel? They're definitely, the problem is with India. It's with India, and India wants to put pressure against Pakistan. Elon is currying favor with India and Modi, and Israel is obviously aligned with India as well. So I think that has more to do with it. I don't know how much the US is going to continue to pressure Pakistan. I doubt it has anything to do with ICBMs. Okay, let's react to some interesting clips that I've come across. I need to get headphones in. Okay, hopefully you can hear this.
Grade school. His name was Mark Cohn. I had a brilliant friend in grade school.
All right, can you guys hear this? This is Norman Finkelstein, a Jewish pro-Palestinian activist and intellectual. So he's saying in grade school he had this friend named Mark Cohn.
His name was Mark Cohn. He died from cancer at an early age. He went to MIT, and he had a stupendous mind. He ended up being the chief technology officer for a major computer firm in Washington. It's called Unisys, UNISYS, and it's affiliated with the Pentagon. And Mark was the head of the computer system in the Cheney-Bush White House. Why do I mention this? Well, Mark was on the opposite side for me. There's nobody I have a deeper affection for than him. He was my childhood friend. He was the kind of person you were proud to be in the presence of, and he counted me as his best friend for a period. I once said to him, you know, Mark, you're a very odd combination because you're so self-confident, but you're absolutely not arrogant. And he said, yes, it's true. He says, I just know if you put a problem to me, if given the time, I can solve it. I have that confidence, you know.
Interrupting him a little bit, it's interesting how he's talking about a hardcore Zionist literally working for the government in defense, but he's a close friend of Norman Finkelstein. That's quite an interesting revelation, I guess, about friendship.
And he ended up becoming a terrorologist, which I didn't like at all.
Another thing I don't know, what is
it just means somebody who professionally studies terrorism. I didn't like that at all. I found it very hard to listen to his YouTubes when he was lecturing on the subject. In any event, when the assassinations occurred of the leadership of Hezbollah, I said to myself, of course they were defeated, because there are 10,000 Mark Cohns out there. How could Hezbollah, it's a non-state actor, how could they compete with the resources, the quantity of mines arrayed against them, the 10,000 Mark Cohns in the Pentagon? I realized I wasn't realistic. They couldn't have prevailed.
So I think that's a very telling, interesting statement or admission from Norman Finkelstein that 10,000 of these types of people that he knows that are very intelligent, highly competent, and they are organized and they are connected and they all are dedicated towards one goal, which is to advance Greater Israel, to advance the interests of Israel at the cost of Muslims. Isn't this interesting? Like, isn't this claim, or isn't it fundamentally assumed by Norman Finkelstein that Muslims don't have even 10,000 minds to come and oppose Israel? Isn't that what he has assumed? But he's not, he's not making a big deal about that. He's stating it as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. Of course, like he kind of hedges a little bit and says, well, Hezbollah, they're non-state actors. But, I mean, think of the larger point. You have 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 people like his friend Mark Cohen. But the Muslim population in the world is so much greater, and the Muslim population is opposed to Israel, presumably. Is there not, out of the 2 billion Muslims in the world, can we not manage 10,000 people who are geniuses, who are at that level of intelligence where they can come together and network and organize towards a goal of serving the interests of Muslims, serving the interests of Islam? Where are those 10,000 Muslims? 10,000 is a small number compared to the global Muslim population. It's shocking to think about this for me. Because he has a point. He does have a point. I don't think that he wants to claim that Muslims are just stupid. So if it's not the case that Muslims are just stupid, they don't have the ability to think at that level of analytic ability, then it's a matter of organization, it's a matter of networking, it's a matter of a meeting of the minds. I don't know. It's depressing to me. It's depressing and frustrating. And, I'm on the search myself. I'm on the search for like-minded people who get it, who understand, who want to be one of 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000. I've been on this search. And every time I think that, there's someone who he's smart, he can do research, he cares about the future of Islam, he understands who the real enemies are. It turns out, nope. This is just another fool. This is just another person who thinks that, the best, the most important thing is to make sure you have the right aqidah when it comes to the sifat of Allah. We have to make sure you have the right position on these secondary issues. And didn't your sheikh say that? Like, every time you think that, there's someone who we can use this mind, we can use this intellect. Yeah, it's depressing, but inshallah, people are waking up, Muslims are hopefully recognizing that. And it's not like Islam does not value intelligence. That's the other thing, that this is like a cope that some might have, like, Islam is not about being smart. Islam is not about being high IQ. Islam is about fighting. Islam is about, taking the sword and fighting, and that's how we do things in Islam. So the complete nonsense, like complete idiocy. Because who was the greatest general of Islam, and arguably the greatest general of history in all of history. Who was it? It's Khalid ibn Walid. Is it not? Wasn't Khalid the greatest general who was the most successful in expanding the territories of Islam and defeating the greatest empires of his time, the superpowers of his time, with very little in terms of means? But what was the defining characteristic of Khalid ibn Walid? The defining characteristic of Khalid, from what I can tell, was his intelligence. And this is actually a statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who noticed this, and he made this statement about Khalid. And it's a very interesting statement, actually, because this was Khalid ibn Walid was clearly the mastermind who led to the defeat of Muslims in the Battle of Uhud. The catastrophic defeat of the Muslims in the Battle of Uhud was at the hands of Khalid ibn Walid, his strategy. And one of the very telling statements of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about Khalid is that why hasn't Khalid converted to Islam? Why hasn't he become Muslim? Because that's what we expect of someone at his intelligence. Someone as intelligent as Khalid should be a Muslim. And this is one of the statements of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam linking acceptance of Islam and intelligence. Those who are high intelligence, they understand that Islam is the truth. And the reason that many of the highest intelligence, smartest people in the world don't accept Islam, it's because of their ego, it's because of their arrogance, it's because sometimes they are not intelligent enough to understand the limitations of their own intelligence, and other reasons. But in general, the expectation, and that's the expectation that I have, when there's someone who I view as intelligent, I admire their intelligence. I think like, he's too intelligent not to be a Muslim. There's something else going on. And that's the kind of statement that the Prophet ﷺ had about Khalid ibn Walid. So the reason that Khalid was successful and was able to lead these military campaigns and defeat the superpowers of his time was because of his intelligence. Was because of his strategic thinking. So, yeah, be proud, have izzah, really value bravery, really value strength in terms of bravery, standing for the truth. These are all values that are important, but don't devalue intelligence, because arguably intelligence is one of the very significant, if not the deciding factor in what allowed Muslims to spread in the early years of Islam. It was strategic thinking and intelligence. So how can we return to those times, that golden time, without intelligence? Tell me that. And we know that, again, going back to the conversation that we often have on Haqiqatjou about Imam Mahdi. Imam Mahdi, you think he's going to be an idiot? You think he's going to be like this stupid person? You think that he's just going to have so much iman and he's going to have so much taqwa, and that's what's going to bring the military successes and the political successes of the Mahdi and his followers? I'm not denying the importance of taqwa. I'm not denying the importance of iman and being a good Muslim and having these kinds of qualities. I'm not denying that. But you don't think that a defining feature and characteristic of the Mahdi is going to be his intelligence, his strategic thinking? Of course it is. It's going to be his strategic thinking and those who are around him, his closest advisors. So why are we just waiting for the Mahdi? No. We have to do our part, and our part needs to be strategic thinking, rallying our resources, combining forces, understanding what the real problem is in the world so that we can solve those problems collectively. That should be our goal. That should be something that we should be working towards. And that's what I'm constantly talking about and advocating for. And I know that many of our viewers appreciate that, but you need to do more to spread it. You need to do more to spread intelligent analysis, intelligent understanding, strategy, strategic thinking, research, a meeting of the minds. A meeting of the minds that actually moves the needle. Unfortunately, we do have like these academic conferences, but they're all worthless. They're all garbage, basically. It's just academic conferences that are so boring and they don't actually address real problems. And mostly it's because no one's really willing to critique the actual powers in place. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, so I'm not going to repeat myself. But yeah, we need a different solution. We need a different approach. And you guys are part of that. If you understand the issue, you need to support and you need to mobilize and be active in supporting research, analysis, thinking, strategy, media. That's what MuslimSkeptic is all about. That's what our work is all about. So we really appreciate all of your help. Now, here was a very interesting video posted by Donald Trump.
The war in Syria, and you may actually hear from grown-up reporters who are lying through their teeth or ignorant beyond imagining that, oh, the war in Syria, yes, Russia intervened in Syria. Well, do you know that that Obama tasks the CIA to overthrow?
So this is Jeffrey Sachs. He's an academic, an analyst, and he's a critic of Israel. Donald Trump posts this video on his social media, and he's talking about the war in Syria and other wars in the Middle East.
Throw the Syrian government, starting 4 years before Russia intervened. What kind of nonsense is that? And how many times did the New York Times report on Operation Timber Sycamore, which was the presidential order to the CIA to overthrow Bashar al-Assad? 3 times in 10 years. This is not democracy. This is a game. And it's a game of narrative. Why did the U.S. invade Iraq in 2003? Well, first of all, it was completely phony pretenses. It wasn't, oh, we were so wrong, they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. They actually did focus groups in the fall of 2002 to find out what would sell that war to the American people. Abe Schultzky, if you want to know the name of the PR genius. They did focus groups on the war. They wanted the war all the time. They had to figure out how to sell the war to the American people, how to scare the shit out of the American people. It was a phony war. Where did that war come from? You know what? It's quite surprising.
So the regime change in Syria, the invasion of Iraq. How do we get the people to accept the population in the West to support these kinds of wars? These wars are unpopular. We need to change public opinion. We're going to have focus groups. We're going to have a media operation, a psyop, basically. Who's behind all this?
That war came from Netanyahu, actually.
Oh,
you know that?
Netanyahu.
It's weird. And the way it is that Netanyahu had from 1995 onward the theory that the only way we're going to get rid of Hamas and Hezbollah is by toppling the governments that support them. That's Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And the guy's nothing if not obsessive. And he's still trying to get us to fight Iran this day, this week. He's a deep, dark son of a bitch, sorry to tell you, because he's gotten us into endless wars, and because of the power of all of this in the U.S. politics, he's gotten his way. But that war was totally phony. So what is this democracy versus dictatorship? Come on. These are not even sensible terms.
Yeah, so it's shocking that Donald Trump is posting this video that's calling out Netanyahu. Calling out Netanyahu for using the United States for phony wars in the Middle East and attacking Iran. So it's a good sign. It's a very positive sign. It's kind of alarming. So if Donald Trump is aware of this manipulation by the Israeli government to pull the United States into conflict in Syria, in Iraq, in Iran, if Donald Trump is aware of that, then what about all of these Zionists that he's put in his administration? All of these Zionists who were openly calling for war with Iran. His cabinet is full of these Zionists. So who is really controlling Donald Trump? Who is really in charge of his administration? If he's aware that this is a scam, quote unquote scam, that's the term that Jeffrey Sachs used, why is he allowing it to happen? Is he really the commander-in-chief? Is he really going to be the president of the United States? Or he's just a figurehead? So this is this is a huge scandal, and this kind of lends some credence to the suspicion that Donald Trump is the fall guy. Donald Trump is going to, they're going to take him out. They are going to take him out and they're going to pin it on Iran. Imagine, like, this is what we've been predicting for the past year, or ever since that first assassination attempt against Donald Trump, where his ear got scratched. It seems like Donald Trump is not going to last. And I hope that whatever plot that they have to take him out for the sake of Israel doesn't work out. That's what I hope. What do you guys think? Tell me in the chat. Now this, here's another very interesting clip.
When you're in the NBA, when you're in the,
let me change the volume so it doesn't blast.
The NBA, it's a lot of things that you want to say, that you could say, but you know if you say it, there's gonna be repercussions. You could get in a lot of trouble. For example, a couple years ago when I played for the Houston Rockets, I tweeted "Free Palestine," and
So if you guys don't know, this is Dwight Howard. He's a famous basketball player in the NBA. He used to play with the Orlando Magic. He used to play for the Houston Rockets. Eventually, he won a championship with the Lakers with LeBron, I think. Wait, what? Did he win the... No. I don't think he won with the Lakers. I think he won with Golden State. Anyway, I've been following the NBA very closely the past 5-6 years. But he's Dwight. He was world famous. You know, he was superstar level, and he's talking about Free Palestine.
got kicked out the league for it. And I'm like trying to figure out why, you know what I'm saying? I didn't, obviously, before that, the conversation happened with some Palestinians, and they were telling me, I actually went to the movies one day. I was in the movies in Houston. A whole bunch of Palestinians was like, hey man, we're big fans of you. Can we watch movies with y'all? So I'm like, cool, man. You know, when I was in Houston and Orlando and a lot of cities I played in, I would take fans to movies. I would take them to main event, do big events at David Buster's and stuff like that. So we go to the movies. After the movies, I'm taking pictures with all the, you know, fans and stuff like that. And they asked me to just bring some awareness to their what's going on in their country. So, you know, me having a big heart, I'm like...
The Christian thing to do.
Yes, I'm like, you know what? I want people to know the struggles y'all having. You know, I don't think it's wrong. So I tweet, Free Palestine. Less than 10 minutes after I tweet that, I get a call from the commissioner of the NBA.
Stop it.
The commissioner of the NBA. The commissioner now, I think, is Jewish. So I don't know if it was that. I think it's Adam Silver. The previous commissioner was David Stern. I'm not sure if he was Jewish, but clearly a Zionist. So there, 10 minutes, the commissioner of the NBA is giving him a call. Big mistake, Dwight.
Agents, people like working with my foundation at the time, Texas, you got to erase this tweet. You got to take this down. You're going to get it. I'm like, what did I do that was so bad?
Can somebody explain to me?
Yeah, can somebody explain? You know, and it was just like because I went against the grain. I said something that people didn't like, and I, you know, now...
Not people didn't like, they didn't like.
So now it's...
they didn't like. Not the people. The vast majority of people want free Palestine.
Like, I gotta stand on what I believe and how I feel and not go back on it.
Yeah.
And when you're in the league, you be in that place where if I say too much, or if I say something, I may not get a job no more.
That's like 70% of people that's out the league that got you.
I gotta hold my tongue, and that's so hard to do when you are faced with so many situations. You have things going on that may be outside the court. You may have situations with your teammates or the team going on and you can't really speak on. And then I just got to a place where I couldn't trust nothing or nobody. So it's like, I'm not gonna say nothing, do nothing. And then that was a problem too, because now other people are speaking for me.
So this is how they censor speech. They censor celebrities, influencers. I think if you actually had like a legitimate survey of what a lot of these athletes and a lot of these celebrities and influencers, movie stars actually think, they're not going to support Israel. They can see that what Israel is doing to Palestinians and Palestinian babies. They can see what's going on, but they just can't speak. They can't speak out. Why? Because they'll lose everything. They'll lose everything. Maybe they're even being blackmailed. Maybe there are certain videos of them. Maybe there's certain footage that has been captured that they're being blackmailed with. And this is how you maintain the appearance that, oh, the West is pro-Israel. The U.S. is a pro-Israel nation. The U.K. is a pro-Israel nation. In reality, the vast majority of people are not pro-Israel. They want free Palestine. This is a very telling statement from Dwight Howard. Hopefully they're not going to kill him for making a statement like this, revealing this. But yeah, it's very revealing and telling. These kinds of tactics are being used. Threats. So, and you see, like, especially with the African American community, Black Americans, they don't get enough credit from Muslims. Obviously, many Muslims are African American, but I think I think African Americans as a whole do not get enough credit from Muslims, because you see people like Dwight Howard, you see people like Candace Owens, you see people like Kanye West, and they're on the forefront of advocating for Palestinians, calling out the structures that are leading to the oppression of Palestinians, and they're doing this at great cost to themselves and their professional lives. Candace Owens was fired from her position at the Daily Wire, the Israeli Wire, under Ben Shapiro. Kanye West lost billions, or he lost at least $1 billion, arguably. Dwight Howard obviously got in hot water as well. You see African Americans, Black Americans, a lot of them have the bravery to speak out at great personal cost for the truth. So as Muslims, we have to appreciate that. We have to respect African Americans for these leaders who are taking these positions. I think that's really necessary. And the kind of what I feel very sad about is some Muslims who adopt these white nationalist talking points and this kind of racism against blacks, that, oh, blacks are this and that. Racism against blacks it's completely disgusting. It's not even justifiable statistically. And I've debunked all of these claims that they make specifically to denigrate blacks, whether they're African or they're Haitian or whatever, South American blacks. And it's unfortunate and it's wrong for Muslims to start using these kinds of talking points. It's wrong on so many levels, but on one level that's very salient to us today, right now, is the advocacy for the Palestinian cause and to oppose Israel. You see many of these black leaders, at great personal cost to themselves, are outspoken. We should appreciate that as Muslims. Okay, final call for super chats, and I'm going to be looking at the chat now, inshallah. If you have any other comments before we end the show. We have Muslim Sayan saying racism is haram in Islam. Islam teaches universal Muslim brotherhood. Absolutely. Brotherhood for Muslims, and then even non-Muslims who are racism against them is also completely unacceptable. Okay, Abdullah, control yourself. Some Jewish women are hot. Okay. Thank you for expressing that. Yeah, beautiful people, beautiful women are in many races, in many different races and ethnicities, of course. No one can deny that. That's a nice comment. Brother Muhammad, watching your live streams increases my remembrance of Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It makes me a better Muslim. May Allah bless you and your family. Ameen. Thank you, brother, for your encouragement. That's a very kind comment from you. Brother Muhammad, really appreciate sending love from Iraq. May Allah bless you. May Allah bless you all and all of the believers in Iraq. May Allah protect you as well. And then SYA, brother, thank you so much. Prepare for Ramadan. May Allah allow us to enter Ramadan. Yeah, it's a little bit more than a month. About a little bit more than a month left until Ramadan. So we're getting excited for that. Good reminder from brother SYA. Across the Surat says, Assalamu alaikum, the first time tuning in. Great show. Thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you. Tuning in. Hope you liked it. Yusuf says, brother, I got one question. How to argue with an Islamophobe when they bring up 9-year-old accusations or whatever. Watch my debate. I had a whole debate on this topic. Go watch it. It's on the channel. I debated a Christian on minor marriage, so go ahead and check that out. It'll give you all the arguments that you could ever possibly need. Abdullah, sorry, I'll be more considerate. Apology accepted. Look, you don't have to, look, if you prefer Jewish women, that's halal, you know. You can marry, you can have a Jewish wife. You can have a Christian wife. They're Ahlul Kitab. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. Like, if you prefer Jewish women, no problem. But I'm just questioning whether it's appropriate to announce your preferences publicly on this live stream. That's the only concern I have. I'm not objecting to your claim or your preference for Jewish women. No problem. Anwar says, am I demonized? Yeah, I'm demonized. I'm demonized by everyone. By non-Muslims, by a lot of these Muslims are demonizing me now, saying I'm a deviant. I'm being accused of deviance night and day. They're takfiring me. Do you know how much takfir that I get? I don't know if there's any Muslim da'i in the West that is takfired as much as I'm takfired. Really, it's getting shocking. It's getting shocking the amount of takfir that I'm getting. So, I mean, I'm smiling, but it's kind of sad. I mean, not sad for me. It's sad for the people who are takfiring me. Okay. Any other comments? I see a lot of comments just agreeing with Abdullah about hot Jewish women. I guess a lot of the Muslim skeptic audience or the Haqiqatjou audience, you're revealing yourselves. You're revealing yourselves that you have these preferences. I'm okay with you having preferences, but Maybe not the best time. What is, oh, so you're saying, actually, I meant demonetized, not demonized. No, alhamdulillah, the channel is not demonetized. But I don't run ads. So we don't have ads on our videos. Why don't I run ads? Is it haram to run YouTube ads? I'm not going to say it's haram to run YouTube ads. Some people, some du'at, they run YouTube ads. But when it comes to YouTube, they give you the choice. Like, you can choose not to run ads. And if YouTube didn't give me the choice, they're running ads regardless, then I would say fine. Then give me part of the revenue, because I can use that for doing dawah. But since they give a choice where you can turn off ads and you're not going to get ads, then I choose to do that. Because I don't feel comfortable with some of the ads that are shown on YouTube. Like, literally, you go and you want to watch a Muslim lecture, or you want to watch a video on a Muslim da'i's channel, and it's like like an ad for palm reading, like psychic readings, or it's an ad by a Christian group and they're trying to do missionary work to Muslims. So I don't want a missionary ad or a psychic palm reading ad or an alcohol ad to play on my video. Like, before you're going to watch Genius of Islam episode 3, or you're going to watch, like, I don't want that. Now, if YouTube changes its policies and make it required, like, you can't opt out of ads, then, you know, I have to figure out, like, well, is this something that we can still, we have videos and we get some of the revenue that YouTube provides. So yeah, so we're not demonetized. We were demonetized. We were demonetized for a period of time, about a year, back in 2022. There was a year that we were demonetized, and it's not clear why. Why are we demonetized? But it didn't really make a difference. Why? Because I'm not running ads in the first place. I don't get money from YouTube. The only money I get from YouTube is through super chats. The super chats that you give are what allows us to have this show, to pay for our costs, to pay for our researchers and writers. That's what your super chats are going to. I don't get any other independent money from YouTube. So if they demonetize, it doesn't really affect anything that we do on MuslimSkeptic. We just can't get super chats. And in that period, you'll remember, if you wanted to have a super chat, I'd direct you to MuslimSkeptic, and you could donate directly through MuslimSkeptic, and then I'd read your comment. Do you remember, if you guys were watching Haqiqatjou? Actually, this was before Haqiqatjou, when we were just doing live streams. That was the situation, because we were demonetized. Now, some people, when they get demonetized, like, they rely on, all of their income is coming from YouTube. So if YouTube demonetizes them, that's the end of their dawah. That's the end of their dawah. So but that's not our situation, alhamdulillah. But I mean, we appreciate your support. We need your support. But we can't just rely on one platform. We can't rely on YouTube, because you never know when YouTube is going to pull the plug. What is the most efficient way to donate? Through the website. We're having some technical issues with the website that we're trying to resolve. MuslimSkeptic, if you go on the right-hand side, there is a place where you can, it says like store, but it's not really a store. It's just in the sense that you can make a donation. But I'll make an announcement. If you want to contribute to MuslimSkeptic, we'll have an announcement. Okay. Man, you guys are really interested in marrying Ahlul Kitab. The chat is just A lot of comments on that. Do you get in trouble over there for speaking about this stuff? Has anything happened to you? Can you share your experiences if you don't mind me asking? No, alhamdulillah, nothing has happened to me. You have speech protections in the US, so legally they can't really do anything. I mean, is attempts to intimidate certain Muslim speakers, but alhamdulillah, I haven't been intimidated. And everything that I say is perfectly legal. It's perfectly protected by the law. I don't call for any kind of illegal activity in the US or anywhere else. So, alhamdulillah, that's the thing. Like, people assume that, oh, what Daniel is saying is so brave and it's so this and that. Brave in what sense? Like, I'm not going to really face a firing squad. I'm not going to be put in prison, alhamdulillah. So the question is, why aren't other people saying it? Why aren't other people saying these kinds of things? Like, when it comes to LGBT, like that whole psyop on the world, but on the Muslim community as well, where Muslims, we have to support LGBT rights. Muslims, we have to, adopt feminism. You can oppose that. Like, you can say, no, this is against my religion. No, this is not something that is morally correct. There's no legal consequences for that. So why aren't more of these imams saying it? Well, they're scared of something, but it's not the law. They're just scared of maybe they're going to lose donations. Maybe they're going to say something politically incorrect and they're not going to be invited to some of these media opportunities or these government opportunities, or they're getting grants, they're getting money. That's why they're not saying it. Not because they're going to face any legal consequences. Okay. Yeah, you guys crack me up. Some of these comments. Okay, guys. Let's see. I don't want to go to 3 hours, but I do. Now everyone's spamming Palestinian flags. That's good. No problem. Oh, okay. Let me just give you a program update. Some of you guys are interested in what's coming in from MuslimSkeptic. I'm going to publish, inshallah, hopefully next week, a very interesting, information-packed video on Salafism. Salafism and Ibn Abdul Wahhab. We're going to have a really nice video. It'll be about 45 to 50 minutes. And if you remember the video that we did on Madkhalism and the Madkhali virus, and you remember how that was an in-depth investigation of Madkhalism and some of their religious arguments, we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to look at Salafi sectarianism and the history of Ibn Abdul Wahhab. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of this stuff about Ibn Abdul Wahhab, I hadn't really looked into, and I just assumed that, yeah, people dislike Wahhabis, quote-unquote Wahhabis, because they're just liberals. They're just liberals, and they just label anyone who is a conservative Muslim as a Wahhabi. And it's a label, it's a smear just by anyone who's against conservative Islam. If you're a Muslim who is a conservative Muslim and you don't accept these different bid'ah practices, or you think that some of these extreme Sufi practices are incorrect, then they're just labeling you as a Wahhabi. But, when you actually look at the history of Ibn Abdul Wahhab, it's shocking, a lot of his teachings. It's actually quite shocking. And I was not aware of some of his doctrines. And I was thinking about doing a Haqiqatjou on Ibn Abdul Wahhab and going and reading these quotes, reading the context, looking at that history, and doing a show on that. But I consulted with the team, and ultimately we decided, let's just do a very dense video with a lot of information, very beautifully presented on the screen so people can follow, and they can dedicate 45 minutes and really learn a lot and really benefit from that presentation, as opposed to like a 3-hour live stream. So some people want just information more densely packed in that kind of format as opposed to a show. So that's what we ultimately decided. I'm almost finished writing it, and I'm going to record it, inshallah, and then I'll be edited, and hopefully it'll come out by the end of next week. And it'll be a good one, inshallah. Sorry. Sorry, there was some video that the Jeffrey Sachs video just started replaying. You guys probably didn't hear it, but it was in my ear. Anyway, so yeah, that's what's coming up. A nice video on Ibn Abdul Wahhab and Salafi sectarianism. And that's only part 1, because we're going to have a second part, and we're going to address the claims of some of these Salafi sectarians that what is Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, what is Orthodox Sunnism, what is the correct position on what is Sunnism, etc. And what's your Aqidah, bro? We're going to address all that with a nice detailed video as well. Inshallah, that's coming up. And we're working on that kind of content for you, which I hope you will enjoy. When it comes out, don't forget to like and share it, because that's really the help that you can do for Muslim Skeptic. If you really want to help, sometimes you can't donate any money. You can clip our videos. I've already mentioned that before. Any content on our channel, on the Muslim Skeptic website, you can clip, you can republish, and no problem. There's no copyright issue. I'm giving you permission to do that. You can translate, you can redistribute, no problem. And if you let me know, I'll retweet you, actually. I will share your videos. I'll share your channel. That's how you can help, is by clipping, by sharing, by liking, by commenting, by engaging. That's everything that you can do if you can't contribute money or whatever. All right, guys. So I really appreciate all of your comments. Again, I want to keep things under 3 hours, so any of these last-minute comments I can't really address. Save it for the next Haqiqatjou, which is going to come up maybe later this week if some big news item comes. If not, then next week we'll definitely continue Haqiqatjou, and be on the lookout for the new videos that are being published. They're going to be more high production value, and you'll enjoy them, inshallah. So until next time, I will see you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.